Well, Tammy, thanks very much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Can we start, if you could just tell us a little bit about your background, where you were born, where you grew up, just a story about your childhood.
Right, okay. I was born in China, and then when I was about 10 years old, I followed my family, immigrant to Hong Kong, and most of my childhood spent in Hong Kong. I moved to Scotland in 1995. I actually met my husband when I was in university in Northern Ireland.
Oh, wow.
And then after that I went back to Hong Kong to work, but in 1995 we decided the relationship was strong enough for us to get married, so I came to Scotland in 95, but I only stayed about 3 years at that time because of the job situation. I got a job offer to Hong Kong, so I went back to Hong Kong again, and in 97, and my husband followed me to Hong Kong, so we spent about 10 years in Hong Kong, and then my husband felt he's Scottish Irish, he wanted to come back to Scotland, so in 2007 we decided to move the whole family back to Scotland. So since then I've been in Scotland for nearly 10 years.
Right.
On my second trip. Yeah.
And can you tell us kind of your initial experiences of living here? What is it? How did you feel when you first came to Scotland?
The first time in 1997, I felt quite difficult, to be honest. I think because when I came, I was working in Hong Kong, and at that time I actually lived in Elgin for about 3 months, and that wasn't a very pleasant experience. The reason being was, when I was in Hong Kong, it was very metropolitan. It was very busy, and I have a very busy working life. Then suddenly, dramatically changed from a very busy working person to a place, the shop shut at 4 o'clock, and so quiet. And personally level as well, I didn't have any work at that time, and I feel that took me quite a while to adjust, the life, personal life. And at that time there wasn't common have internet as well, so you kind of suddenly from somewhere very busy, another things occupying, to nothing to do. How are you going to kill the time, and that wasn't present. But I would say the second time was different, because the second time when I came with the family, and of course I faced different challenge at that second time, because when I was in Hong Kong, I have a lot of sort of family support network in terms of childcare and everything. When I moved back in 2007, suddenly everything is on my shoulder to do everything, do the school run and everything, and you don't have this sort of family network around you, and those, I would say the first 3 years I've really found quite hard and homesick,
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
And how come you moved to Elgin? Was that?
Well, at that time when I moved to Elgin, it was because my husband was the managing director for one of the construction company in Elgin,
Okay.
and I kind of, came here and then stay with him. But actually, end up with, I only spent about 3 months in Elgin and managed to get a job in Edinburgh. So
Sure.
I moved to Edinburgh, and then he just came to visit me at the weekend.
Right, okay.
That's
In your early time in Scotland, I suppose, a bit of contrast in Elgin and in
Yeah.
Edinburgh. Can you tell us a little about your social life and your sort of lifestyle when you first came?
When I first came, as I say, part of the difficulties is I knew nobody, and it was really, really difficult, and when I was in Elgin times, especially. But since I moved to Edinburgh, I start sort of get involved in Chinese community and start knowing people. And I think that does change dramatically, because I can start feeling I'm connecting with people and talking to people and get involved in the community, and that's really make a difference. Yeah.
Okay. Is there much of a Chinese community in Elgin?
Not much. I know I don't know anybody in Elgin, and I hardly ever met anyone. But I know there's a sort of True Jesus Church or something in Elgin, but I never sort of get in touch with them, because it wasn't quite my religions and things like that, and I felt it was not something I want to get involved very much as well. Yeah.
Right. when you first, I guess, moved to Edinburgh, then did you interact with people a lot from different backgrounds, or was it mostly the Chinese community, or?
Right. Personally, socially, I tend to involve in Chinese community, but at the same time when I work, both times I work in Edinburgh. So at work level, I probably have a lot of encounter with local, like Scottish people, or my company now, people probably came from different nationality. So I sort of interacted with them, and sometimes, sort of work colleague, we might have outing and things like that. But on my sort of personal level, I tend to get involved more in the Chinese community.
What was the kind of early experiences of working life in Scotland?
I say when I moved from Elgin, I was sort of more junior level, and that was a work only, so it's nothing one way or the other particular. But when I moved back from Hong Kong this second time, 2007, I came as a professional because through the years I have worked, and I certainly felt it's very positive to sort of being a professional working in Scotland company, and I enjoy working, and I do feel like my professional knowledge and my way of working and everything get appreciated. That's really important for me, and I sort of go in sort of development as well, from the company. Sort of when I first came, I was employed as a cost manager, and then later on I was promoted to senior cost manager, and now I'm the associate director for the company. So those are sort of, I felt very positive in that experience.
Great. What were your thoughts of Scottish culture when you first arrived? Do you have any kind of stories about discovering different things that maybe surprised you, or at all when you got here?
I wouldn't say there's sort of any particular, but I certainly find sort of Scottish or a local is a very friendly culture here. It's a very welcome. In sort of, as I say, the personal experience at work. It's positive, and sometimes even you walk on the street, you see people, you ask a question, you make inquiry. Everybody seems give you a very pleasant response. Not making a noise to say, oh, why you ask a stupid question like this and things like that. So I felt that's very positive as well.
Do you see any similarities between Scottish culture and your own culture in China or Hong Kong?
Yes, I think until I work, when I talk to colleagues, I found like the family value. Like one of my colleagues, they tell, same as us, we all commit to our children and sort of core value of sort of family. That's something I discovered, which quite different from before I joined in the Scottish culture. I always thought that's something that they don't know about family value at all, things like that. But when you actually talk to people, that's not the case, I certainly felt welcome, as I say, both at work and at personal when I visit different places or even on the street, and I haven't experienced any negative sort of people or any racist sort of criticism against, and that's make me feel like Scottish society welcome, and the other experience I have is to say, like when my children, they attend the school, they form their friends group very easily. So I certainly feel Scotland give me an impression is like they welcome or they embrace the culture, different culture.
Did you have any particularly difficult situations at all when you first arrived?
As I say, Elgin experience definitely is something I felt, difficult. Of course, from sort of personal work level, I felt there's still something about the cultural gap, in terms of the, not so much about the language you speak, it's about the way I brought up. Like if I am what I am by sort of listening to the Cantonese pop music. You know, I don't know so much about the sort of British singer, you know, things like that. So for me, I feel that that's the gap which is not easy to overcome this because I came, you know, as what I am, not, you know, someone sort of grow in this culture. Maybe it will be different for my children because they grow up here, they, you know, grow up in Scottish culture, and all the, you know, musician or, you know, anything they like will be quite different. And maybe that's not just my gap between me and my colleague, you know, at work, and maybe a gap between me and my children as well.
Right, sure.
You know.
That's very interesting.
I certainly enjoy very much about the open space here. You know, the sort of, and particularly in Edinburgh, you have like different festival all year round. And I still remember in sort of when I came to move from Elgin to Edinburgh, and I also work at the Chinese department store, you know, and the festival just on the streets. And I still remember I kind of feeling so exciting to see all this street performance, and I got my hair done, you know, to sort of kind of feeling really, really happy, you know, in that sort of spirit and atmosphere.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So moving sort of to the sort of present time now more, can you tell us a bit about the work that you do and what inspired you to start in that work?
Yeah, I'm a quantity surveyor. I currently working on water leaf project, for prevention project. I'm the commercial manager on behalf of the council to manage this project. I certainly enjoy this experience working, and something I feel very exciting about being involved in the construction industry is something you kind of tangible. You see, you know, things actually building. 2 years ago, Merrifield is kind of different from what you see now. So that sort of sense of achievement, you can really see it, you know, that's something. And at the same time, I feel I quite enjoy and sort of my professional, you know, by applying the knowledge, and you feel you actually contribute. In particular for this project, I feel like certainly the success of project is like many elements, and I felt proud of like I'm part of this element to bring the success of this project.
So what inspired you to become a quantity surveyor?
To be honest, when I first joined, I didn't know. When I actually studied the HND in Hong Kong called Building Technology and Management. At that time, I think it's more by exclusion rather than chose as a career, because I would say, I don't want to be involved in textile, I don't want to involve such and such, therefore maybe that sounds, you know, something I can do. But after I graduate, I found that is really one of the career I really enjoy. As I say, I study science, and being a quantity surveyor, you need to good at mathematics and things like that. And I felt certainly that skill set suited, and I also quite enjoy sort of law and things like that. You know, to apply all this construction law knowledge, which is relevant. Say, you know, because for this project, when we form the contract, you need to really consider how do you form the contract together, and what sort of risk allocation, how do you ensure the contract is clear to everybody. And again, those are something you use a lot of analytical skill, you know, which I feel enjoy as well. So I felt before I joined, probably I didn't know why I chose, but after sort of start career on that, I felt that is really something I enjoy very much.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know you work at the Chinese school as well.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? How you got involved with the Chinese school and what you do?
Right. I think if you ask everyone involved in the Chinese school, probably majority will be the children go to that school. And then same case for me. It's like about 5 years ago, I took my children to the Chinese school. Obviously, majority of the Chinese, like me, we will want our children to continue to learn Chinese. So we took them to school, and then you start saying, maybe I can help with the school by such and such. And then when you become sort of more involved, and then you see, maybe there's something I can contribute a bit more. And that's sort of how I get involved. And most of the people I know involved in the Chinese school, majority will be that way. Maybe some of them is involved by being a teacher as well, you know, so that's another dimension. But majority is because of children go to school and the parents start getting involved. Because at the end of the day, if your children go to that school, you want the school provide the best education. So what, you know, will be better than you get involved and try to say, you know, make it better for the school. I am the secretary for the executive committee for the Chinese school. Basically manage a lot of minutes, AGM, and all these things. But at the same time, unfortunately, the Chinese school have difficulties to recruit a sort of head teacher. At the moment, we only have deputy head teacher, not the head teacher. And therefore, again, to run the school, you probably have a lot of things need to do, like renting the place, arrange the teacher, cover, and everything. So I kind of step in a little bit to in that role, although I'm not officially the head teacher, but because like everything else, if we see there's a need, and if that class doesn't have teacher, you know, it can't run. So you just got to, you know, make sure things happening, you know, in that way. So therefore, I probably between me and the deputy teacher, we share the majority of the administration role for the school at the moment, you know, and we are still recruiting the head teacher, you know, but our view is like we rather to find someone who really agree with our mission to do the school rather than to get anyone. So it's very important to get the right person so that build up a team, you know, for the school development.
Would you say that your heritage impacts the work that you do, both as a quantity surveyor and at the Chinese school?
Yes, certainly. You know, sort of, I guess the way we brought up, we were told you got to really work hard and be sort of serious about what you're doing. And I think those are very important to say, you know, by being serious in doing what I'm doing, I learn through this process and I develop myself. So those are something which is, you know, what we were told by our parents to say, you know, you got to work hard, you got to, you know, treat everything you do with serious, you know, and another thing is like in the Chinese culture, I guess same as Scottish culture, is you got to respect people as well, you know, like everyone, you treat them equal. And same as like in a Chinese school, if you want to get sort of people involved, you got to respect their opinion and what they tell you, what they don't like about the school or what they like. And you don't say, oh, this is something negative, or, you know, try to, you know, damage. You just say, you know, yes, are they right, you know, and this is sort of very important.
Can you tell us about the experiences that you've had that have shaped the success that you've had in your career?
As I say, mentioned before, I felt sort of by serious about what you're doing, you know, and the other thing is like keep learning new things, and that those kind of things I feel is very, very important. And
what achievements would you say you're most proud of that you've achieved?
I felt like by working for that company, came from Hong Kong and sort of having sort of by being a course manager and then senior course manager, and now I'm the associate director. So it kind of my career path sort of developed. At the same time, I got involved in water life flood prevention scheme, which is, you know, every time when you walk people, you know, there you say, oh, this is the project I was responsible for the commercial management side of it. So that's something made me proud. And the other thing is, I just mentioned I got involved in Chinese school, and I'm quite proud to say the school has developed, you know, quite substantially in the past couple of years, from sort of getting involvement in all sorts of activities, from the diversity, sort of different culture class, and the students numbers increase as well. So all this you can kind of see the sort of compared to 3 years ago to the position now, I can certainly feel proud of how the development and achievement has been.
Can you tell us a little bit about your family life in Scotland at the moment?
I have 2 children. My elder daughter is 18. Is going to be 18 in August. She's doing advanced higher, aiming for university. If not this year, she's thinking to get a gap year and maybe next year. And my son is 15 years old. And my husband is actually working in Hong Kong. He went back to Hong Kong, so majority of time would be sort of me looking after the children, and sometimes it could be a struggle to balance between sort of life and work, personal life and work. And I always say to my colleague, and I have 2 jobs, and now I'm a taxi driver to shift the children around in different locations, different activities, swimming, all sort of things, but now when the children sort of grow older, I find like more of my own space, and I certainly spend more time on the gym, and I get involved a bit more in the Chinese community as well. So those are sort of at the moment I am in.
Yeah. I know your children, do they interact with both communities quite a lot?
I would say they probably regard, because my husband is actually Scottish, Irish, so I would think they treat themselves as more Scottish than Chinese, although they can speak the language, but they refuse to speak to me in the language. Well, I tend to keep them, when I ask them a question, when I have conversation with them, what is 99% of the situation is, I say in Chinese to them, they answer me in English.
Right.
So that's the typical situation we have. But I would think they probably feel they, as I say, the way they grow up and their school, although they might be 1 or 2 Chinese, but I would say their fans, majority of them are sort of Scottish people or local. Yeah.
And do they still go to the Chinese school?
No, because of the public exam pressure. At the same time, their school also over the Chinese language class. At the end there's a difference. It's like the Chinese can over sort of once a week on Saturday, but if it's a formal subject in the school, they can do sort of 5 lessons a week, things like that. And therefore, since they start the school, they sort of no longer go to Chinese school, but I'm stay behind.
So do you engage with people from different backgrounds? You said your husband is Scottish.
Yeah.
So you said you engage mostly socially with the Chinese community anyway?
Yes.
But do you engage with the Scottish community as well quite a bit?
Most of them is full works, like work will probably have different activities organized and things like that. And certainly at workplace we have people probably from different background as well. But other than that, I don't sort of go very far beyond that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What aspects of Scotland would you say are most important to you? What do you feel most related to in Scotland?
In terms of
so kind of what keeps you in Scotland? What is there anything?
Yes, right. I certainly say I feel living in here. Scottish people make me feel welcome. I feel it's a fair society, and both from work level and sort of many aspects in life, you can see that. So that's sort of human side of it. In terms, another side of it is the physical environment. Certainly here, you got much more space. And one thing I really feel, or I always sort of tell my friends how lucky we are in living in Edinburgh. For almost every district, every area, you have green space and green park. And I have been sort of, since I live in Scotland in the past 10 years, we were so close to Europe. I've been sort of visiting different Europe cities and different places. And we always draw a conclusion, it's like Edinburgh is hard to beat, in terms of green space, and you can always have like last night, my husband came home for a couple of months, you know, for rest, and we could manage to sort of walk hours on the Inverley Park and everything, you know, and those are really hard to beat. And air quality, water quality, you don't need to, I don't know, like whether you heard something, sometimes you do have negative about some of the food hygiene in some of the other countries and area. So here you seems don't need to have this concern, you know, I can turn on the tap water and drink the water, and not every country you can do that, you know, and those are certainly the sort of quality of life is good.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And what aspects of your own heritage would you say are most important to you? What do you hold on to?
I would say the family value and the sort of people, you know, together, you know, we all sort of work together. Those are sort of very, and certain families is sort of very, very important for me.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Have your feelings about Scotland changed at all over the years?
I would say when I came, I mentioned before, like when I first Elgin experience wasn't very sort of quite dramatic change and wasn't very present, and then even when I came back in 2007, as I say, I felt I went through a stage from having my family network and have my sort of supporting network and everything, to come here to kind of on my own. That, and the first 3 years I feel I really miss home, to sort of I want to go home, you know, because everything you got to manage on your own, and you got to address the lifestyle, the food, you know, what you used to have, the ingredient, it's not easy to get, and all these things, you know. But I think this is, I came in 2007, this is 2017. I feel now, I went back to Hong Kong a couple of years ago, I felt that feeling change, you know. I kind of to think, if I go, when I went back to Hong Kong, I felt, took me a while, a week or two, to kind of familiar myself to everything.
Right. Yeah.
And I certainly, it's like I feel relaxed and more space and everything. But in Hong Kong, you kind of feel everything is crowded and noise and everything. So that's kind of, over the years, I must use the lifestyle here and change already.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And would you say you feel Scottish, or feel a part of Scottish society?
I feel I certainly is part of Scottish society, but I wouldn't say I'm 100% Scottish society, because, as I say, that little bit of me about culture, my own being brought up, and like if I talk to my friends when we went to karaoke, whenever the song is about Cantonese pop song, you know, everybody excited, you know, that sort of element. And I wouldn't think I can share this kind of experience with my Scottish colleague very much, you know, because of this kind of things is not something by speaking, by learning, is how you feel about it, you know. So I feel I probably will never be sort of 100% Scottish, but I do enjoy the culture here and enjoy the sort of mutual respect here.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
How would you say that moving to Scotland has affected your life?
Affecting in my life, as I say, like I changed probably when I was in Hong Kong, because everything is so condensed, and I tend to be panic quite a lot and try to sort of very efficient, like all your time is fully occupied, and to be honest, I probably wouldn't have time to do any sort of charity work and like the Chinese school and everything. And I would say, since I moved, the lifestyle changed, the work. Another element I like to mention is that, like, here I learned to more sort of work and life balance, not just sort of work. And by that, you kind of not just develop, you know, it formed me to have like professional development I just mentioned, but at the same time you also have your personal space grow as well, you know. And so those are sort of different from who I was before because of that environment. Very competitive. You've got to sort of almost working, you know, some crazy hours, you know, until 11 o'clock at night and everything, you know, and kind of when I was in Hong Kong, the life is more around work, you know, and but here it's more sort of work-life balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
In sort of general terms, do you feel that immigration has a positive effect on Scotland?
I would say so. Certainly, another thing I noticed about Edinburgh, like when I first came here, I felt like if I want to try to find Chinese ingredient and then anything, it's difficult. But now in the supermarket, you can get all these sort of, you know, noodle and Tesco, there's a section of Chinese, you know, section and everything. And in terms of food, you have like different nationality, Japanese food, Thai food and everything. And I certainly feel like because of immigration, it does enrich the city a lot. And also I felt through the work, you see like people, by having experience of the culture, they are more open-minded about many things, you know, not just say, oh, there was a good dim sum restaurant here and I took my colleague to them, and a lot of them actually enjoy very much in that. So what I'm saying is like people seems by having opportunity to experience different culture, and those immigration come here, bring their own culture, kind of, you know, make the society more rich in many aspects.
Yeah, great.